I say, give I straight, Jah, give us straight. Give I straight. What's going on? And welcome to my podcast. Get it, give us strength. Give us strength. Give us strength. Give us strength. Listen, bread, I would have to get paid. Does it give us strength? Give us strength. Jah, give us strength. Give us strength. All right, now it's time to get down to business. The impeachment. 100% bullshit. Let's get it. House Judiciary Committee. Just some bullshit, man. God damn. God. Proceedings.
Is about to begin this historic session. Two articles will be voted on after that lengthy 14-hour debate. Yesterday, they debated and rejected four amendments, maybe 5 amendments, 4 or 5 amendments that were introduced by Republicans. But here's Jerry Nadler.
The Judiciary Committee will come to order, a quorum being present. Having agreed yesterday to the amendment in the nature of substantive evidence of impeachment of President Donald J. Trump, the pending business is reporting the resolution favorably to the House. Reporting quorum being present, the question is now on the motion to report the resolution. Each res 755 is amended favorably to the House. Pursuant to Clause 5, House Rule 16, because the resolution contains 2 distinct propositions, we will divide the question between the 2 articles. The question now is on Article 1 of the resolution, impeaching President Donald J. Trump for abusing his powers. The clerk will call the roll.
Amazing.
Mr. Nadler?
Aye.
Mr. Nadler votes aye.
Bullshit.
Ms. Lofgren?
Aye.
Ms. Lofgren votes aye.
Bullshit.
Ms. Jackson Lee?
Aye.
Ms. Jackson Lee votes aye.
Bullshit.
Mr. Cohen?
Aye.
Mr. Cohen votes aye.
Bullshit.
Mr. Johnson of Georgia?
Aye.
Mr. Johnson of Georgia votes aye. Mr. Deutsch?
Aye.
Mr. Deutsch votes aye.
This is a
Ms.
meeting.
Bass?
Aye.
History.
Ms. Bass votes aye. Mr. Richmond?
Yes.
Mr. Richmond votes yes. Mr. Jeffries?
Aye.
Mr. Jeffries votes aye.
Aye,
Mr.
yes,
Cicilline?
or
Aye.
yay,
Mr. Cicilline votes aye. Mr.
or
Swalwell?
nay.
Aye.
Mr.
Or no.
Swalwell votes aye. Mr. Liu? Mr. Raskin?
Right.
Mr. Raskin
Take
votes
too
aye.
long.
Ms. Jayapal?
Aye.
Nay.
Ms. Jayapal votes aye. Ms. Demings?
Aye.
Ms. Demings votes aye. Mr. Correa?
Yes.
Mr. Correa votes
Yes,
yes.
you just had to be different.
Ms. Scanlon? Aye. Ms. Scanlon votes aye. Ms. Garcia?
Aye.
Ms. Garcia votes aye. Mr. Neguse?
Aye.
Mr. Neguse votes aye. Ms. McBath?
Aye.
Ms. McBath votes aye. Mr. Stanton?
Aye.
Mr. Stanton votes aye. Ms. Dean?
Aye.
Ms. Dean votes aye. Ms. McCarcel Powell?
Aye.
Ms. McCarcel Powell votes aye. Ms. Escobar?
Aye.
Escobar.
votes aye. Mr.
Escobar.
Collins?
No.
Mr. Collins votes no.
Remember that last
Mr.
name.
Sensenbrenner?
No.
Mr. Sensenbrenner votes no. Mr. Shabbat?
No.
Pablo
Mr. Shabbat
Escobar.
votes no. Mr.
Direct
Gomer?
relation.
vote is no.
Mr. Gomert votes no. Mr. Jordan?
No.
Mr.
Hell no.
Jordan votes no.
My man.
Mr. Buck?
Hell no.
Mr. Buck votes no. Mr. Radcliffe?
No.
Mr. Radcliffe votes no. Miss Roby?
No.
Miss Roby votes no. Mr. Gates?
No.
Mr. Gates votes no. Mr. Johnson of Louisiana?
No.
Mr. Johnson of Louisiana votes no. Mr. Biggs?
No.
Mr. Biggs votes no. Mr. McClintock?
No.
Mr. McClintock votes no. Miss Lesko?
No.
Miss Lesko votes no. Mr. Reschenthaler?
No.
Mr. Reschenthaler votes no. Mr. Klein?
No.
Mr. Klein votes no. Mr. Armstrong?
No.
Mr. Armstrong votes no. Mr. Stubbe?
No.
Mr. Stubbe votes no.
Stubby.
Has every member voted who wishes to vote?
No.
Mr. Chairman, may I ask how I'm recorded?
How was the gentleman recorded?
Mr. Gomer, you are recorded as no.
Yeah, I want to make sure.
Clerk will report.
My man.
Mr. Chairman, there are 23 ayes and 17 noes.
The article is agreed to. The question now is on Article 2 of the resolution, impeaching President Donald J. Trump for obstructing Congress. The clerk will call the roll.
Mr. Nadler?
Aye.
Mr. Nadler votes aye. Ms. Lofgren?
Aye.
Ms. Lofgren votes aye. Ms. Jackson Lee?
Aye.
Ms. Jackson Lee votes aye. Mr. Cohen?
Aye.
Mr. Cohen votes aye. Mr. Johnson of Georgia?
Aye.
Mr. Johnson of Georgia votes aye.
Just in case you
Mr.
missed
Deutsch?
it.
Aye.
Mr. Deutsch votes aye. Ms. Bass?
Aye.
Ms. Bass votes aye. Mr. Richmond?
Yes.
Mr. Richmond votes yes. Mr. Jeffries?
Aye.
Mr. Jeffries votes aye. Mr. Cicilline?
Aye.
Mr. Cicilline votes aye. Mr. Swalwell?
Aye.
Mr. Swalwell votes aye. Mr. Liu? Mr. Raskin?
Aye.
Mr. Raskin votes aye. Ms. Jayapal?
Aye.
Ms. Jayapal votes aye. Ms. Demings?
Aye.
Ms. Demings votes aye. Mr. Correa?
Yes.
Mr. Correa votes
Happy
yes.
Friday the
Ms.
13th.
Scanlon?
Aye.
Ms. Scanlon
We're
votes aye.
witches
Ms. Garcia?
and warlocks.
Ms. Garcia
rain.
votes aye. Mr. Neguse?
Aye.
Mr. Neguse votes aye. Ms. McBath?
Aye.
Ms.
As they
McBath
burn
votes
my
aye.
brothers at the
Mr.
stake.
Stanton?
Aye.
Mr. Stanton votes aye. Ms. Dean?
Aye.
Ms. Dean votes aye. Ms. McCarcel Powell?
Aye.
Ms. McCarcel Powell votes aye. Ms. Escobar?
Aye.
Ms. Escobar votes aye. Mr. Collins?
No.
Mr. Collins votes no. Mr. Sensenbrenner?
No.
Mr. Sensenbrenner votes no. Mr. Shabbat? Mr. Shabbat votes no. Mr. Gomer?
No.
Mr. Gomer votes no. Mr. Jordan? Mr. Jordan votes no. Mr. Buck? Mr. Buck votes no. Mr. Radcliffe? Mr. Radcliffe votes no. Miss Roby? Miss Roby votes no. Mr. Gates?
No.
Mr. Gates votes no. Mr. Johnson of Louisiana?
No.
Mr. Johnson of Louisiana votes no. Mr. Biggs?
No.
Mr. Biggs votes no. Mr. McClintock?
No.
Mr. McClintock votes no. Miss Lesko?
No.
Miss Lesko votes no. Mr. Reschenthaler?
No.
Mr. Reschenthaler votes no. Mr. Klein?
No.
Mr. Klein votes no. Mr. Armstrong?
No.
Mr. Armstrong votes no.
Votes no.
Mr. Stubbe?
No.
Mr. Stubbe votes no.
Stubbe votes no. In this closing.
Is there every member of the committee who wishes to vote voted?
Not me.
Clerk will report.
Mr. Chairman, there are 23 ayes and 17 noes.
The article is agreed to. Resolution is amended and is ordered and reported favorably to the House. Members will have 2 days to submit views. The resolution will be reported as a single amendment in the nature of a substitute. Without objection, staff is authorized to make technical and conforming changes. Without objection, the committee is adjourned.
Mr. Chairman,
For
pursuant,
what purpose does the gentleman seek recognition?
pursuant to Clause 2L of Rule 11, I give notice of intent to file dissenting views.
Notice is heard. Without objection, the committee is adjourned.
A storm got here.
All right, well, there you have history unfolding at the House Judiciary Committee. Major history, 2 articles of impeachment, abuse of power, obstruction of Congress approved along strict party lines, 23 Democrats in favor of those 2 articles of impeachment, 17 Republicans opposed, 1 Democrat, Ted Lieu of California. He's ill, he could not vote. Otherwise, it would have been 24 to 17. Jeffrey Toobin, this is history unfolding, and now it sets the stage for a full vote on the House floor, presumably next week.
You
week.
could see it on the faces of the members of
This is just
Congress as they
100%
voted. You know, they do a lot of voting, and it's
You got work
usually
to
a
do.
really routine task.
Yeah, work
But
to
I
do.
think you saw on the faces of people on both sides the gravity of the situation, that the fact that this is a rare event in American history, and they all know that their obituaries, whenever they depart the world, it will be noted how they voted here and the fact that they served on this committee at this time. And I think they recognize that, and they were appropriately sobered.
Sober. So we're sobered now? Sobered.
Tonight, Democrats objecting to this statement from Senate Majority Leader Mitch McConnell.
I'm going to coordinate with the president's lawyers, so there won't be any difference between us on how to do this.
Why is McConnell strategizing with the White House and taking on the role of a jurist in Trump's impeachment trial at the same time? Up front now, CNN presidential historian Tim Naftali, one of the authors of Impeachment and American History, which Senate Majority Leader Mitch McConnell has been reading, and Brenda Wineapple, her book, The Impeachers, The Trial of Andrew Johnson and the Dream of a Just Nation, is being read, he has said, by Republican Senator John Cornyn. So, Tim, putting aside the obvious joke of perhaps he has not read your full book. Okay, let's cut to it. So the President's Counsel goes to Capitol Hill to meet with the person who is going to be running the trial, which is what it will be in the Senate, right? Impeach in the House and you acquit or remove in the Senate. They're doing these meetings privately. They say there is no difference between them. Is that a problem?
It's a huge problem. Yes, it's an honor when someone who has such an important role to play in an impeachment reads your book.
Yeah, of course.
But one of the takeaways, certainly from the chapter that Peter Baker wrote on Clinton, was how important it was for the Senate to have bipartisan support for the terms of the trial. And then Majority Leader Trent Lott worked with the then Minority Leader Tom Daschle, Democratic Party, so that 100 senators would support the structure of the trial. It was
So you're saying it shouldn't be Pat Cipollone, meaning that McConnell should be Chuck Schumer.
The decision from the get-go. Now, here's something to keep in mind. The United States was very partisan in 1998. We can discuss whether we're more partisan or not now, but there's no question it was a partisan environment in 1998. Nevertheless, Trent Lott, the Republican.
Oh, we got work to do. 18 to 23, fellas. And ladies. Amazing. Give me some feedback. Let me know what's going on with you guys. Hello out there. Probably my freaking dad watching me. Cause I'm a Don. Ramadan. Ramadan.
No need more, no, Ramadan. Then we gonna run it Ramadan.
I will be back. I'm done.
I'm done. I know it's like the Hannah. I'm done. I know it's like the Hannah. Hey. The dance now, I'm full of pictures on the mic. Sing if it's up, I get the joke.
I'm in the fire, we're making the west.
But singing on the mic,
In no contest.
I'm singing just because of your request. I'm done. I know it's like the Hannah. I'm done. I know it's like the Hannah. I'm done. I know it's like the Hannah. Hey, I'm done. Then I always done.
I'm done.
No lingo, no, I done. Then I always done.
I'm done.
Baby girl, don't try
Yes, understand.
Ooh, will you miss?
Understand.
You misunderstand that I'm a man. Misunderstand that I'm your man. The love I get is growing stronger. And don't you, girl, just keep on down.
Oh yeah, back in the day when George Foreman smacked the shit out of Ali for talking that bullshit. Smacked his ass like he was his bitch. You can't talk shit to George Foreman. Take on the best, I'm trying to tell you. Talk that shit with me. I'm gonna get docile around you and smack you like you's a. Make sure I got a ring on me and you come with me with all that bullshit and I feel my spine tingling in the back. Bang! The day when George Foreman smacked the shit out of Ali. It's story.
Then always on it from a gun. No link, was a gun. Then always on it from a gun.
They're doing that bullshit ass shuffle.
Yes, you miss. Understand. Woman, you miss.
Understand.
You misunderstand that I'm your man. Misunderstand that my love is strong. Misunderstand that it is real. It's giving you the power, make you head over real. Ramadan. Then I always done a
Ramadan.
No link,
I'm done.
I'm done. I know it's like the Hannah. I'm done. I know it's like the Hannah. I'm done.
You try to hit him with that same move. He blocked every motherfucking move. He played. Bum. Everybody on time. Good one. Bad boy doing that. We'll be back.
So we go up and we are link the bus. Come and tell the family that we come to make you like it. We a black dance hall and a black parties. Bad boy tuna, bad boy tuna. That's a salute to the man of my God. Bad boy tuna, bad boy tuna. That's a salute to the man of my God. Bad boy tuna, know your rock. So when you rock, you say you know your tongue. So flower can you see me, dangerous. We now fight and we now fuss, but we come and dance and we are nice it up. Now we see that we wanna win. In a zero, and you shoot start it, and your shot starters. So bad boy tuna, that's a salute to the bad boy tuna. Bad boy tuna, that's a salute to the bad boy tuna. You never know who bad boy is. Until a night terrorize the village. Don't give a guy that. Set the village now. So I can't be steady after the they like a gun when I go. They got your big belly. Man, why no one didn't say them want village thing. We have the thing. Man, something. Set don't put one down. Over 19. Set the bad boy tuna. Bad boy tuna. That's a salute to the bad boy tuna.
Boom, boom. Somebody in the night. Boom. My man. And you know what? Do you know what? Yeah, it don't matter. No matter what you know, because I'm telling you. Hey, but guess what? Yeah, I will be right back. Just making sure this my microphone work. I got everything going, and we're gonna get this show on the road. Let's get it. All right. I'll be back. Stay tuned. Just a test.